Okay, so we're in my truck, and I've got a problem with the 4x4 in my truck. Right now, the switch is in too high, but my indicating light 4x4 high is on, and I am absolutely in four-wheel drive. And it's pretty terrible. Now, I can sit here, I've got the transmission in neutral, I can switch it to 4 high, and nothing happens because I'm already in 4 high. I can switch it to 4 low, and I switch into 4 low. I can hear the shift motor working. I can switch back to 4 high, and my transfer case goes into 4 high, but when I go back into 2 high, transfer case does not shift into 2 high. My initial diagnosis was that something was wrong with the shift motor, disallowing it to go into 4 high, and so I spent a whole bunch of time fussing around with that, getting nowhere, and I'm going to show what ended up happening to the shift motor to the point where I ended up ordering a new one. Now, the new one came in, I installed the new one because I suspected the shift motor was the problem. That turned out not to be the case, so I wasted some effort in that area. What we're going to do is go inside to my workbench, and we're going to walk through what the actual problem was based on the manual. Now, unfortunately, when I initially had this failure, I didn't own the full factory Ford manuals. Now that I do own the full factory manuals, the diagnosis was a lot easier, and it's going to be a lot clearer what's going on. Alright, so we're inside the wiring diagrams official book for a 2008 F-150 Ford, and I'm here in the four-wheel drive system diagram, and I'm looking specifically at the way that this is working. Now, if I look at my lines, I have a couple of different inputs, and the one that I'm having trouble with is two-wheel drive, four-wheel high, and four-wheel low. And if I look at this, each one of these lines in the circuit for each one of the commands has a separate resistor shown. And so that indicates to me that that's what's actually doing the control here. And it's also, I'm seeing that that's on pins 2 and 4 of the switch. So that's probably a good indication that that's where the problem is residing, is in the switch itself. Because I'm easily able to switch between four-wheel high and four-wheel low, but I can't switch to two-wheel high. There's probably something wrong with this part of the functionality of the switch. Okay, now I'm in the chassis manual section, and I'm in the four-wheel drive system section, and I'm doing my troubleshooting. And if I'm looking through the condition charts, this is the problem that I'm having. Vehicle does not shift between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive modes correctly. And it says possible sources of the mode selection switch, transfer case clutch, integrated wheel ends, 4x4 control module in the PCM, circuitry, or ignition switch. Now, based on all of my testing underneath the vehicle, the mechanical sides of the system are fine, without a problem, no issues there. It says to go to pinout test J. So if we go over to pinout test J, right here, vehicle does not shift between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive modes correctly. There's a bunch of different things here that can be done. Now, unfortunately, I can't check item number 1. My scan tool can only read engine codes. I cannot actually look for diagnostic trouble codes in the transmission module, or at least it's not showing them to me, or it's not detecting that anything's wrong. Then it says to check the ignition switch, run start position. This part's working fine. Check the switch position, monitoring the four-wheel drive status. It says to use the scan tool. I can't do that, so unfortunately there's no way for me to tell. I suspect the scan tool would show me that it's not getting the signal to go into four-wheel high. If I look over here, now we're making some real progress. So it says to check the mode selection switch with the key in the off position, disconnect the switch, measure the resistance between connections 2 and 3, which is what we saw in the electrical circuit diagram, and then follow the following chart. So what the resistances should be is 120 ohms for 4 low, 270 ohms for 4 high, and 620 ohms for 2 high. And that's a pretty easy test to do, so we're going to run through and do that. Alright, well, I don't think I can actually get a really good view in on this. You might be able to see that though. There are actually 4 pins in this connector, exactly as is shown in the manual. And what I've done is connected a pair of probe wires into line 2 and line 3 on the switch. Might be able to pick that up, maybe. The resistance across this line, we're going to put it in 4 low, and then we're going to check it. And in 4 low, we have 130 ohms. Okay. Now we're going to put it into 4 high, and we're going to check it. And in 4I, we have 270 ohms, say 267, something like that. That's good. And then we'll put it into, let's just double check that. Yeah, exactly, 270 ohms. And now we put it into 2 high. And we have 12 kilo ohms. So that's 12,000 ohms. That's no good. And that is, in fact, the source of our problem. We know that we need a 620 ohm resistor to be able to activate the 2-wheel high circuit. And I ran through all of the stuff I have in my electrical drawers and ended up putting together a chain of resistors that I think is probably more than close enough for the task at hand. So we're going to stick that on there, and then we're going to check it, and this should give us, so let's say, in 613 ohms. That's pretty good. I can live with that. You can see that it's 0.613 on the kilo ohm scale. Okay, so in order to resolve the issue, what we'll do is we'll disconnect the switch. Easy enough to deal with. And instead of utilizing the switch, what we're going to do is we're going to jam this resistor into the middle 2 poles where it picks up the resistance. And as soon as I do that, we should shift back into 2-wheel drive mode. So we're going to try and do this single-handed here while I hold cameras and my assistant helps out. So as soon as we hooked that up, there it did. Once it was connected, we went back into 2-wheel drive mode. So that verifies that that is in fact the problem and justifies the ordering of a new switch.
Because the switch is broken.